Welcome to my preview show for the final round of this year's Quick Fit British Touring Car Championship. We've got plenty to talk about with the upcoming final round of the championship coming up very soon. It's crazy to think we've got to the end of the season, but I'm your host Louis Hedge, and this is Hedge Motorsport. 5 drivers go into the season finale with a mathematical chance of being crowned this year's British Touring Car Champion. We'll be discussing all about them today and hearing from you guys, the fans, in the fans prediction segment about what you guys think we should be looking out for this weekend at Brands Hatch. So, starting with Josh Cook, he's 5th in the championship at the minute on 250 points. Now, he's a bit of an outsider because there are 67 points on offer and he needs 66, so he needs a perfect weekend and he needs his championship rivals to not score anything, which we sort of know is very unlikely. But to be fair, Josh has had a really good year. Last season was a pretty difficult one for him. I think we could all agree. A lot of bad luck, if anything, lots of car problems, and I think that sort of summed up BTC Racing's last year. Really, I know Creasy had a good season getting the Jack Sears, but there were a lot of car problems. So, but anyway, Josh Cook driven well this year, a lot more consistent than we've seen from him in previous seasons. We can always guarantee he'll be very quick at Thruxton, which he obviously was this year, getting his 3 race wins. So Cookie's done a good job. Nice to see he's looking to finish in the top 5 of the championship this year, and as long as he stays put at BTC, I think he'll be right up there again next year. I think he will. On 271 points is Jake Hill. He's 4th in the championship. Now Jake has had a brilliant year. It's nice to see he's in a pretty new car, which is the first time he's really had that. He was in the very old Honda last year, the Audi, which was getting a bit tired by that point this season before in 2019. So yeah, Jake Hill, 4th in the championship, 271 points. He's had a really good year. 2 wins, they didn't come until really late in the season, to be honest. He got, obviously, first win, which was race 2 at Croft, and then he won race 3 at Silverstone after a pretty mediocre day. So yeah, I think Jake's done really well. I think he's driven brilliantly. While it took him a while to get that first win of the season, he drove really consistently and stayed out of trouble where he could. He had a few up and down weekends near the start of the season. Some just a bit of bad luck, more often than not. But to be fair, at the start of the season, he started his year in style. 3 third places at Thruxton, which I think I've banged on about every preview show so far. So Jake's has done a really, really good job. And I think, maybe next year he'll have an even better chance of getting the title. I think he's in a bit of a difficult situation because he is quite far behind Sutton, but anything can happen on finals day. It's a funny old day, and just ahead of Jake is Tom Ingram. Now Tom has I think surprised a lot of people, to be fair. Moving to Accelerate Motorsport at the start of the season, I think a lot of people questioned after being really settled in at the Toyota team for many, many years, or Speedworks as it was when he first started, the small independent team he worked with to bring to the front to a championship fighting team with full manufacturer backing. So it was interesting to see when he moved to Accelerate. He had a pretty strong start to the season, got his first win at Snetterton. So first half of the season was really good. I think in the last couple of rounds he's not been quite as strong, but I think the car, maybe the circuits didn't suit the car as well, but also the ballast, I think, is what they're struggling with. So yeah, Tom Ingram, he's 3rd in the championship on 278 points. Who would have predicted that at the start of the season? So I think next year will be a lot stronger for Tom, obviously getting a year under the belt, but he's still right up there with a really good shout and getting the title. Until it's not mathematically possible, he will keep fighting, and we've seen that in finals days before when he's had big gaps, 30 points or more to claw back. So I think he'll have should have quite a good weekend, Tom. But I think next year he'll definitely be one for the championship. I think over the winter, I'm sure him and Accelerate and Trade Price Cars will be focusing on getting the car right and very quick with the ballast. So that will be good to see over the winter, I'm sure. Now in 2nd place is Colin Turkenton. Now after a pretty up and down first half of the season, he's fought back really well, to be fair. We often see, everyone often says how Colin just get bags of points and doesn't attack unnecessarily. Now he had a couple of really bad weekends on his standard earlier this year. The first being at Brands Hatch, where he just couldn't get the car right. His teammate Tom Oliphant was up at the front, winning everything, having some good battles at the front. And then Alton Park happened, which to be fair was just a funny weekend for a lot of drivers, I think, apart from Dan Rowbottom, who did a very good job, and he's done a brilliant job this season. But back to him later in the video, I'm sure. But Colin had a pretty poor, meeting there, and actually, to be fair, difficult start to the season at Thruxton. But he's fought back, and we've seen how much Colin Turkenton can really fight back, and he's, it's not always paid off. Race 2 at Donington last time out, he obviously spun out, and that was a shame to see. But to be fair, it worked out in race 3. But Colin, he's fought back really well. It's crazy to think he's now back up to second in the championship, but the big thing is he's 32 points behind Ash Sutton, our championship leader. Now, Ash has driven brilliantly this year. Bit of contact in the first race with Colin of the season at Thruxton, which feels like ages ago now. I can't believe, I said at the start of the video, I can't believe we're at the season finale already, but he's driven really well. That's the thing. Last season we all thought, wow, Ash did brilliant. The car was brilliant. He was brilliant. Apart from in the races where he battled when he didn't need to, or he attacked when he didn't need to. Croft race 2 springs to mind. But he's not really done that this year. Of course, he's pushed. You could definitely notice when he's backed off, and that's good to see. And he's driven a perfect championship drive this year, to be fair. So I think he definitely deserves to win it this year. And I think everyone would agree that's who is most likely to win the championship this weekend. But we will see. We've always said strange stuff happens on finals day. There's lots of interesting, controversial incidents. Lots of drama. I know Brands Hatch 2019 finale springs to mind for a lot of people, myself included. So let's see. Weather's going to play a big part. I think if Ash does have a pretty good weekend, get the title done. I think, to be honest, if he gets a couple of top 10, top 6 positions and outscores his rivals, he'll get it wrapped up by just before race 3. So we'll see. But if the other guys can't catch him, the battle for second place should be pretty interesting, to be fair, because a result like a second place finish in the championship for a new team like Accelerate with Ingram would be brilliant. Same to a point with Jake Hill. That would be really good to see. So I think that will be a really interesting fight to see. If they can't topple Sutton, it'll be interesting to see the order they do finish in eventually, and I think weather will have a big impact with that, especially with Colin if it does rain. But I think BMW have got a lot better with their wet weather performance. But I think that's enough from me. I think it's time to now hear what you guys at home, some of my fellow British touring car fans, have got to say about the final weekend in the championship, which I'm sure is going to be a very interesting one indeed. So what's your name?
My name is Stuart.
My name's Dominic.
Hi, my name's Hayley Bristow.
I'm Harry.
My name's Rich, and I'm from the Hard Compound.
And who was your driver of the day at Donington Park?
Oh, for me, it got to be Tom Ingram, just purely for race 2. Oh my goodness, driving from 11th to initially first place. Absolutely gutted for him. Think it was a little bit harsh, the push to pass, and the penalty taking him back down to second place. But Tom Ingram would be my driver of the day.
For me, driver of the day was Dan Lloyd.
Driver of the day at Donington Park, probably Tom Ingram. No, I'm changing that. Jake Hill.
It's a tie-up between Tingram and Rick Parfitt. I don't know if Rick Parfitt got a lot of screen time because I was actually at the track for a change. But watching Rick make his way up the grid in race 1 and most of race 3 was absolutely fantastic. There were loads of clean moves. He was diving down the inside at turn 1 especially. That was good, absolutely cracking. And then obviously you got Tom Ingram race 2. I don't know. I even missed how he got up that high that early on.
Driver of the day at Donington, I've gone for Rory Butcher. I think 2 third places and a 4th on a day where there was a lot of chopping and changing and controversy was very impressive, and he's got to grips with that car. So yeah, Rory Butcher.
Who has impressed you the most this season?
For me, I think it's got to be Jake Hill.
That's a tough one. I think Mr. Turkington has done very well after a shaky start, if I'm honest. I don't know why I'm impressed by someone who is so good, but it could have easily gone the other way. I think Dan Lloyd has done really well this year as well. I think he's been awesome. And I know you asked me just for one, but I'm going to do three. But also probably Jake Hill as well, actually. Got a real soft spot for Jake. I think he's doing really well. So
This season, I think I'm sticking with Dan Rowbottom. I don't think anyone expected it. It's still his second season, and he's won and put on pole. That's absolutely fantastic, and he's given Shedden a really good run for his money.
I couldn't decide, so I've gone for a toss-up between Jake Hill and Dan Rowbottom. Jake has shown what he can do in a car that's not a few years old for the first time, and Dan has silenced all the critics he had going into those very big Matt Neal shoes at Team Dynamics. So yeah, Jake and Dan.
I think over the course of the season, for the step up and the consistency, it's Aidan Moffat.
And who has surprised you the most this season?
I knew they were a good driver, but Dan Rowbottom, again, just with the results and storming his way to the Jacks is very impressive, but a surprise a little bit.
I think it would probably be Aidan Moffat because, oh my goodness, just astonishing this year, and I think watch this space for next year.
Who has surprised me the most? There's been a couple of surprising rounds, hasn't there?
Yeah.
And I think you can look at some of the new names that have come to the championship, or some of the returning names as well. But I think Robo has surprised me to a certain extent, not because he's never had the talent, but it's how quickly he's adjusted to being in the spotlight in that car, and obviously the changes that Dynamics have had to go through, you know, kind of Matt moving upstairs and what have you. So yeah, pleasantly surprised. You know, I always knew he'd do quite well because he's got the talent, he's got the car. But I'm glad that he has gone on to do what he's done. If I'm honest, yeah.
I think probably Shedden. I was expecting him to be not quite in the title fight first year back, but I was expecting him to be, you know, sort of up there. Like I think a lot of people were.
I've gone for Dan Lloyd. I think he's come back after a few years away, and he's slotted back in. He's 13th in the standings, which isn't a fair reflection of what he's done this year. And I think he's better than the results have suggested, and I didn't see that coming. So, yeah, a pleasant surprise, Dan Lloyd.
And who's going to qualify on pole at Brands Hatch?
Oh, that's a tough one, isn't it? Because it's... I don't know. There's been a couple of boys, isn't there, and that have kind of come alive at the end of the season. I wouldn't be surprised if Rory Butcher ended up on pole. I wouldn't be surprised if Ash was on pole, even though, you know, he's not done it for a bit, is he? But yeah, I reckon Rory's going to be on pole. I just have a feeling he's smashing it, isn't he? This last kind of few weekends. So I think yeah, Rory Butcher for me.
Well, I'm confident it's going to be dry and full of sunshine. So Turkington.
I've risked jinxing my whole fantasy team and saying Jake Hill.
I think it's all weather dependent. Checked the forecast and it initially said rain. Checked it again. It now says it's going to be dry. Who knows? I think possibly on pole might be Senna Proctor.
Tough question, but I'm going to go with Colin Turkenton. He can pull a lap out of anywhere, and he needs to. So if the weather suits, I'm going to go with Colin Turkenton.
And who's going to win race 1?
I think if Mr. Butcher puts it on pole, like I've just said, I think Rory runs away with it. If Rory isn't on pole, then I think I don't know. I reckon Flash has got some more points to prove. I reckon Gordon Shedden might take home race 1. I don't know why. It's not based on anything. I just got a feeling, you know.
Turkington.
Again, depends on the weather. Maybe Colin, but I'm going to go with Rory Butcher.
Again, risking my whole fantasy team, I've put Josh Cook to win race 1.
Turkington.
And who is most likely to win more than one race?
I think. Do you know what? I reckon Jake Hill might do okay. I mean, there's no rhyme or reason to any of these, but I think, you know, Jake's got great form around Brands Hatch. He's in great form in general. I think if any, I'll caveat this with, I think it's going to be 3 races, 3 winners, if I'm honest. But yeah, I think Jake is probably most likely to, if anybody's going to do it, take home 2, just because it's home circuit for him. He's on fire. Car doesn't seem to be too affected by the weight in a mass, like compared to maybe Mr. Ingram. So I reckon Jake, yeah.
I hope he's going to win 2, so Colin Turkenton.
I've again going to say Josh Cook and fully doom my fantasy team, but I think Cookie's going to have the strongest weekend out of any of the top guys this weekend.
Most likely is Ash Sutton, but I don't think he needs to. So let's go with Tom Ingram.
If it's dry, Colin Turkenton.
And who is going to be this year's British Touring Car Champion?
Ash Sutton, without a shadow of a doubt. I think this is the week before Brands, and I think it's already a done deal. But we never know. But Ash Sutton.
It's kind of hard not to say Sutton, but I think it will be Sutton. My head says Sutton. My heart wants it to be Ingram.
I think it's got to be Ash Sutton. I really think he's too far ahead for anybody to catch him, so I think it's going to be Ash Sutton.
It's really hard to see past Ash Sutton unless somebody were to give him a helping hand, or he's reckless. So my champion's going to be Colin Turkenton.
Ash Sutton, mate. I just don't see any, unless he has a nightmare on Saturday and Sunday. There's just no, I just think he's just going to go there. He's going to battle enough to make sure that he gets the points that he needs. It's dangerous, isn't it, this last weekend? Because Ash doesn't want to be taken. He's got to finish all 3. He's got to probably stick pretty close to both Tom and Colin, I think. But I think he'll do it. Yeah, I don't see anybody else. Ash is just going to be smart, and that'll be it. Title number 3 wrapped up, done, dusted. Thanks very much, and he'll be off for Christmas.
So it was really interesting to see everyone's thoughts on the championship deciding weekend. I think everyone sort of agreed it's Ash Sutton is going to be the one to watch in terms of the championship. But yeah, thank you very much to all my guests on the fans prediction, and thank you to all of my guests across this season that came on the show and got involved, you know, whether you did all of them or just 1 or 2. But so yeah, thank you very much if you did get involved. But obviously a lot of the talk has been about the championship, but there's lots of other little stories happening with the championship, as there always is going into this final weekend. Obviously a common one is who we should be looking out for this weekend other than the championship protagonists, because I guess we've spoke about them quite a lot, you know, rightly so. But I think For Fords, we should be looking out for. Obviously, Jake Hill will be leading them, I would have said. I think Ollie Jackson is due a good weekend. He's had a bit of a quiet season, really, to be fair, after a real breakthrough season last year. He had a pretty consistent, strong round at Snetterton, right at the start of the year, where he always runs well. But apart from that, he's had quite a quiet year. Got some points, but not really been able to replicate last year. If you remember back to Brands Hatch GP last year, it was at the start of, or near the start of the season in August, when we had that mini heat wave and all the Hondas had problems. But Ollie Jackson had a pretty good weekend, if I remember rightly. He had a really good I think he qualified about third. So I would have said Ollie Jackson should be pretty strong. I think the Ford runs well round there. But to be fair, it's been so close this year. It's pretty hard to work out. You'd think the two Halfords Hondas should be up there, Dan Robottom and Gordon Shedden. Shedden had a brilliant Donington, which was way overdue after a lot of bad luck, to be fair, and a pretty up and down season. And Dan Robottom will want to be, finishing this brilliant year that he's had on a high. So you'd think that. Dan Lloyd's got some good momentum as well after 2 back-to-back good rounds of getting podiums. So I would have thought he'd be up there. I'd love to see Plato back on the podium. And remember back to 2019, the finale then, Plato won race 3 of that crazy race, which was deciding the championship, which I suppose Plato's win was, overshadowed a bit by that. But it would be good to see Plato up there again after a pretty difficult season. Team Hard will be wanting to have a good weekend as it is their home circuit. So the Cooperers keep on, improving. And do remember Jack Goff got a podium in our first trip to Brands Hatch on the Indy circuit earlier this year. So I would say there's some more outsider sort of drivers to look out for. Adam Morgan should be up there because he had a pretty good round earlier this year, winning race 3. And he seems to have got to grips with that BMW pretty quickly, actually. He had a pretty consistent start to the season. Had some more quiet rounds of recent, but I think he's going to be up there, wanting to finish his season in style. And a driver actually I haven't mentioned is Rory Butcher. It'll be interesting to see how he gets on, because he's been quite up and down this season. Pretty consistent at Donington, very good. Silverstone obviously getting that double win. So it'll be interesting to see how Rory does. And that is all we've got time for today. Thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you for watching any of my preview shows that I've done this year. Obviously I did most of the ones at the first half of the season, had a bit of a break of more recent times, but I thought it was going to be good to make one for the final, which is obviously a day I think we all look forward to in the championship. So thank you very much for anyone that watched. Please do like and subscribe, as it really does help with the growth of the channel. Thank you very much to any fans that have been on the fans prediction. I've really enjoyed doing them, and getting to know lots of you guys and hearing your predictions ahead of a race weekend, which is always interesting, always difficult to predict. And thank you to any of my other guests that I had on the show, particularly earlier in the year, that sort of gave a bit of an insight into different weekends and tracks. So yeah, thank you very much to everyone that's been involved. Obviously, just a quick note, obviously coming to the end of the season, we're still going to be putting out videos, even though we've got the winter break fast approaching, which as a motorsport fan is, I suppose, a bit daunting, but definitely looking forward to, making some more content, keeping up the interviews as much as we can. We're going to do some season reviews with different drivers on the Toka package, and yeah, just keep them, putting out some content. If there's anything you guys would like to see in particular, whether it's interviews or talking to any type of driver or looking over something that's happened in touring cars in recent years, I'm definitely up for any suggestions. So please, comment below in the comment section. But that is about it. I've been your host, Louis Hedge. Enjoy the Brands Hatch finale. It's going to be a good one. Thank you very much for watching.